Well, hello there, all my wonderful, beautiful broskies and broskies of the wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation. I am the Dark Shadow Maverick, and welcome to, finally it is here, part 8 of What If Izuku Had the Carnage Symbiote. Part 7, we basically made it up all the way to the birth of Izuku and Yu's child, who and they basically end up figuring out that whenever they were born, they would be born with the symbiote attached to them, already bonded. So they would age in the same way and at the same speed. Instead of being any differences, it would be pretty much mostly the same. Not much to really pick and prod at. No poke and prod. Man, it's been a while since then. How long a while has it been? Total of 5 years. Which is why Ursa has been reminding her parents that, well, she's 5 and visit the quirk doctor to check, well, if she has a quirk and what her quirk is. And you and Izuku would obviously have to give her a talk about, even if she doesn't have a quirk, the possibility of that they still love her, and if anything, a person who's quirkless doing the things that, your father's able to do on a daily basis, and possibly even better than him, like doing those things better than him, possibly, would be something actually great for, well, the entire, Hero Society to see happen. That's when she remembers that her father's probably not the best example of that, seeing as he's quirkless. And technically, Ursa would have never been told that, thinking that her father did have a quirk. But now, her mother has just confirmed that her father is quirkless, yet he is the #1 hero in all of Japan. And a part of the #1 hero team in all of Japan, Team Symbiosis. This only seemed to actually encourage Ursa to try her best even more if the fact that she was actually quirkless popped up. But that's whenever you will remember that while Izuku is quirkless, she has a quirk, Gigantification. And that's whenever Izuku would basically tell her that symbiotes like Carnage, and possibly all symbiotes, like Carnage never specified how many, but, well, just more or less symbiotes like Carnage can indeed pull off the same shit, the same shit that, she's able to do. Literally increase and decrease their size at will. It just all matters, how Like good you are with your own symbiote. Of course, like Izuku's always improving each and every single day, so who knows how good he is at that little trick by now. The whole process of getting really big or getting really small, more or less, Izuku just says it's more or less shape shifting. We can not only do that, but we can become other things. Yeah, certain Carnage version of other things, but still other things. In order to gain certain advantages, and we'll just overall be better off because of it. And, well, you would have accidentally blurted out her astonishment at hearing this news, and because of that, basically, they would have both been forced to explain to Ursa about the whole thing about symbiotes. With Ursa not even knowing that she has her own symbiote, and has basically had it ever since the very moment that she was born. They basically having their own parents basically be forced to tell her about symbiotes. They seem to, well, basically Zuko and you seem to, you know, find the fact that Ursa seems to be perplexed by all of this information and will be in like a unforeseen awe just about the very idea of these creatures that their parents call symbiotes. You're saying that, oh, that's nothing. Your father is not only the number one hero, but he is part of number one hero team. Team Symbiosis. Basically called that because all members of the team, besides, well, their, I guess you could consider them their secretary, all having, or besides the secretary, all having symbiotes of their own. All with their own different names, and, well, different personalities, and even relationships. And Ursa would just be blown away. And so at this point, she wouldn't even really care if she had a quirk or not, because, well, if her father had a symbiote, then it definitely wouldn't matter, because, you know, he could teach her how to fight like someone who had a symbiote. Almost like a symbiote foo. She could be strong without having to use a quirk. So, truly, the rest of the ride wasn't all that stressful. It was more or less just a dead silence of confusion until what the other person was thinking. None like anything you had ever seen. And so whenever they finally got to the Quirk Doctor, Izuku and you would both be there waiting to hear something from the Quirk Doctor after all the tests had been finalized and everything had been said that needed to be said. Basically, Ursa would have come out of the office of the Quirk Doctor with her favorite flavor of lollipop. And she'd even be singing the lollipop song. You know, the one that goes, lollipop, lollipop, ooh, lolly, lollipop, 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 ooh, lolly, lollipop. That one. She'd be kind of going to a tune of it. Like, lollipop, lollipop, ooh, lolly, lollipop, lollipop, lollipop. She would actually be pretty happy. And the Quirk Doctor says he really doesn't understand why, but he's not going to question it. And Izuku automatically knows why he said that. And he would just be like, she's quirkless, isn't she? And the Quirk Doctor would be like, do you have the quirk to read my mind or something? Because, like, Izuku, like, shot up and gave that response, like, almost automatically. He knew so, like, well, like, everything. Like, he could read expressions and, like, tell from voices just exactly what was going on, even though he wasn't there himself. And, well, Mountain Lady hearing this, basically, Quirk Doctor's response, basically confirming that their daughter was quirkless. However, she was still insanely happy. Basically, the Quirk Doctor would say he had something to confess. He thinks that their daughter might be possessed. And basically, Carnage would come out of Izuku's shoulder/neck area and say, if you're talking about the purple substance attached to her, she's not possessed. That's our daughter. Scorn. Technically, both Ursa and Scorn are our daughters, seeing as they were born together, with Scorn as symbiote and Ursa as the symbiote's host. And, well, the Quirk Doctor now basically, you know, even though he hadn't had his, like, third cup of coffee in the day, he would have been woken up by that for sure and be like, oh, God, wait, you're you, Takayama, and you're here with, oh, God, I am so sorry, I did not mean to disrespect you. Basically, he just now realizing who he was talking to. That he was talking to, like, the #1 pro hero and the leader of the #1 pro hero team in all of Japan. Freaking the symbiote hero Carnage. And, yeah. Basically, if you guys all know about the United States of Smash and, well, the Plus Ultra that All Might's able to do, like, if Izuku has any sort of move like that he can do, it's not really a move, it's more or less a form that's able to dish out shit, like, that makes that stuff, like, basically look like a drop like a pebble in the midst of an ocean. Like, whenever compared, to its power. Basically, like, the United States of Smash and Plus Ultra basically being the pebble, and what Izuku's able to do being the ocean. And what exactly that is something that basically, if you haven't heard of it, you're probably not from Japan. What Izuku's able to do. And the fact that no one, like, bar none of no one, like, barely anyone has ever lived to tell the tale of freaking this power. It's called Absolute Carnage. Or is it Maximum Carnage, the form? Well, it's one of those. Basically, yes, instead of having, like, the crazy move set that All Might does, like the United States of Smash, like 100% Smash, or like Plus Ultra, he just has, like, the Absolute / Maximum Carnage. The one with the crazy third eye thing. And once he's in that mode, basically, somebody gonna die. He's been able to control it, like, a little bit more every time he uses it, with, the help of his wife around, training to help control it has been easier with his wife around helping him. And even other members of Team Symbiosis volunteering to help with the process of calming his transformation the frick down. Well, basically calming him down whenever he enters the transformation. Because once he enters that transformation, somebody gonna die. Like, 2 kids gonna die tonight. It's almost like whenever you say Candyman 5 times, somebody's gonna end up dead. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. Somebody's going to end up a dead motherfucker. Yeah. That's basically Izuku's thing. And everybody in Japan, basically the only way you wouldn't be able to know about it is either if you were, like, a baby, so, like, you wouldn't be able to soak up the information, or if you didn't actually live in Japan and you were off in some other, like, country in the world. That's, like, either if you were a baby or if you weren't an actual Japanese citizen. That's, like, the only way he would, like, possibly not actually know about this form. That's how freaking, feared it is. Like, how powerful Izuku becomes whenever using this power. And Carnage even admits that kind of scares himself whenever he does that power. They kind of scare themselves whenever they enter that transformation. Because they're not the same person. They become something totally and completely different from who they once were. Something truly to be feared. Almost like a god of only pure smoting. Just a god bent on smoting everything in their sight. However, over the years, as Izuku would like to say, basically, he's been able to finally, get a hold of himself whenever using the transformation. So now, anytime he uses the transformation, and he goes to kill somebody, that basically it's because they deserve it. And it's not just because he went off balls off the wall crazy. It's because they deserved it. Now, basically, it's gotten to the point in Hero Society, in the past, it had actually gotten to the point to where, because of how everything happened, the common, populace had actually become more accepting of heroes that did indeed bridge that gap into actually, doing some killing as a part of who they were as a hero. Like, not always killing people, but some people they did indeed kill. And basically, All Might was basically like, All for One was going to be his exception, and he, never does that. Unless, you were talking about, back whenever he got his injury, he might have possibly been thinking of doing it, but, in the Camino Ward incident, he was definitely thinking that he was going to kill this guy, just get rid of him, make the world a better place because of it, the fact that he was no longer going to be around. So, just over, selective amount of time, basically, society has become more used to the type of hero that, feels that some people deserve to get killed. Some people can be put through something like a villain rehabilitation program, but some villains, they deserve to die. And thus, that is what they will do. They will kill those who deserve to be killed, and they will do an effort to either rehabilitate or just plain lock up those that they don't see as that bad that they need to kill them. So it's more or less a moral compass kind of deal. Like, who do you deem so bad that they have to be dealt with in that manner? And once you basically have decided that, how do you intend on doing it? And that's basically been Izuku's thing. He's been trying to control his power, this new Carnage transformation. It's either going to be Absolute Carnage or Maximum Carnage. But I'm thinking, since I've already called it Absolute Carnage several times, I'm just going to call it Absolute Carnage. Just because I've already said that so many damn times. Basically, Izuku's already had so much experience with this new power, or what used to be a new power. He's already had so much experience with it, and he's finally been able to get it under control, under wraps completely, and in doing so, basically becoming like All Might on the ultimate roids. Basically, God mode All Might. Beyond anything anyone could have ever expected. And basically, this is why he's not only feared by some, but is also revered by others as, their symbol of peace. That is better than another symbol of peace that came before him, because of what he's willing to sacrifice in order to keep Japan a safe place to live, so that people don't have to be afraid to just go out in the middle of the streets at any time of day, so that they don't have to be afraid to live their lives. They don't have to constantly be on their guard just in case a villain comes out of nowhere and tries to attack them. Because Carnage or any one of his team will be there to save them and defeat the villain that tried to hurt them, tried to endanger their existence. And so you can honestly tell the opinion on Team Symbiosis is a very positive one. Now, why should it not be? I mean, they're basically the best at what they do, and that is keeping Japan a safe place for basically everybody, except for the people that try to endanger other people's lives with their acts of villainy. And then you have the whole scale of what exactly to do with those people once you're done kicking the crap out of them. Like rehabilitation, you're locking them up, or rare chance, it's actually rarer than you think, the rare chance of just getting it over with by just killing them. And yes, you heard me right, it's actually a rarer chance than you think that they actually do this. Basically, Izuku and you and Ursa would have all left the Cork Doctor's office and, well, the hospital in general. Basically going to car ride back home. And really, if you're thinking that there are going to be any negative repercussions for Ursa's life because of the fact that both her parents are heroes, one of them is actually the number one hero, so God knows what responsibilities come with that. Well, she has the rest of Team Symbiosis to possibly, do what needs to be done when concerning her. Yes, and most of the time it is, as she calls him, or, well, them, it's either Uncle Agony or basically Uncle Agony, Uncle Agony, or Grandpa Venom. Well, she wouldn't really say Grandpa. She would actually say it in a very different kind of way than how most people would say it. She would say Grandpop's Venom. And basically, Uncle Agony. Yes, Shoto and Shinso would be the main two ones to actually drop by and take care of Ursa while basically her parents were gone. If they ever were gone, like doing something, like a type of mission. And hell, like they have, I believe, over double the amount of members that the Wild Wild Pussycats has. So they really don't have to worry about, that hurting their performance in the whole line of hero work. Plus, the leader of their team is the number one hero. So, yeah, literally, that wouldn't make sense for them to worry about that. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. Think logical here. Use logic because it's logic. So, yeah. That's that. Well, basically, you guys might be wondering how long will it actually be till that Ursa, figures out about her symbiote and starts training with it. Well, basically, entering UA is like age of 15, so basically 5 years before she actually be eligible to take the exam for UA. And so 5 before 15 is 10. So basically, once she was 10 years old, so 5 more years until she is actually informed about the fact that, she's already been informed about symbiotes, but it would be 5 more years until she's actually, given the whole, you know, lowdown on the fact that she has a symbiote and, well, what would be happening after that. So let's say those 5 years have flown by, and basically, you is like, well, do you think it's time to tell her? Or have you reconsidered the time in which we should do that? Are you going to hold it off more? And Izuku's like, why you gotta be so mad at me? And he's like, I'm not mad, Izuku, honey. It's just, I think that the fact that we held off at all, well, it might have been smart at first. I mean, even if it was, I feel, a little, what's the word, dishonest in doing that to her. 5 years now? Is it like 5 years now? Yeah, it is. 5 years of feeling dishonest to my own child, to our own child, our baby girl, who's growing up so fast, and she's already stronger than every quirk kid in her classroom. Anyone who tries to use their quirk to bully others, she's able to stop them without even batting an eye. That's just how physically and mentally strong she is. So, it's a wonder what exactly will happen whenever we do tell her. Is that the reason why you're not wanting to tell her? Are you afraid of what will happen? If she won't be able to take the news and something bad will happen? He's just like, well, yeah, and also, well, you remember not too long ago I had finally, spilled the beans about whenever our hands connected back in the Camino Ward incident, why I acted strangely in that moment. Well, basically, I sensed that there was a power, and that power was me, and I was holding off. And also very strong power. Possibly as strong as me before I enter that state. Of course, we'd be on even footing if I was just in the normal monster carnage form, but as soon as I go absolute carnage, there is no hope for that other being to win the battle. Even if it could utilize its own version of its own monster form, yeah, the absolute carnage form isn't the monster form. It is something that ascended far beyond it, to the point where there is no comparison. So, this being it's kept away because of its fear of me possibly using that power to, well, do God knows what with it after I had kicked its ass. Strongest symbiote, my ass. All black, more like all coward. It knows that I'm stronger than it. Not only am I equal to it whenever entering the monster form, and possibly be still equal to it if I was in the slimmer transformation, with only slight difficulty keeping up, but the moment I go absolute carnage, which, due to the massive amount of power I get just from powering up into that form, there would be no way that this thing would even be able to stop me from transforming. It's just a no-go, a no-deal. There's nothing keeping me from just killing it by going automatically into the absolute carnage form and just getting done what needs to be done. This all-black symbiote. However, most symbiotes can't survive the atmosphere of the Earth. And, well, we basically had that confirmed to us whenever, well, we saw a basic case of what happens whenever a symbiote is unsuccessful in finding a host in time, with the carcass of a symbiote known, basically a dead carcass of a symbiote known as anti-venom. Though, basically able to do the same thing that it did to Riot, and in doing that, was able to become even stronger. So, there's no way in hell that this thing would actually come up to me without actually being deemed literally insane because of the power gap we have in between us. Even more now that, well, anti-venom involved in absolute carnage and just everything in general. And just myself as Carnage's host alone, I'm strong enough to put up a fight. And Carnage agrees with me wholeheartedly on the fact that maybe if this has been a while back, like, All Black could have posed a threat, but now that we've become as strong as we have, and even 8, well, basically, you know, like I said, it would suck for the symbiote who trying to find someone who it could, you know, partner with, and in partnering up with, you know, help. It would suck for all of that untapped potential to go to waste. So just like what happened with Riot, I had finally gotten the cue to eat it. And now, the gap in the bridge, the power gap in that bridge, in between the two of us, me with Carnage, and All Black with whoever it's managed to entangle into its lifeless form. The power gap, well, I believe even the creator of all symbiotes originally, you know, the creator of all original symbiotes, would even be able to see that kind of power gap. Null himself would probably definitely be able to notice by now the immense power gap in between myself and Carnage and All Black. Though, something still tells me that All for Black is basically pulling an all for one and might just possibly be scheming on a way to turn the tables. That's why I've been doing some little research on how to make some technology to keep tabs on All for Black's progress and their little plan to basically fold me over and wash me out to dry. I don't just plan on, having this All for Black one. I mean, you know what I did to Riot, because, I told you what I did to Riot, and why I did what I did to Riot. So, if you think I'm gonna let this All Black do that, you're sorely mistaken, my lady love. You are definitely sorely mistaken if you think that. So, it would basically always be a logical step to go that extra mile and keeping tabs on those who would choose to do what All Black is trying to do. He's inevitably going to try to do it at least. He's very crafty and clever with his movements. However, that's at least with someone who wasn't as powerful as myself and Carnage are. But no, we are myself and Carnage. So, what someone would normally think to be crafty and clever, we can see straight through, and we've already been making a couple countermeasures to any possible attack that All for Black might be thinking of. Now I'm just wondering who All for Black made its host. And there's a possibility that somehow All for Black got a hold of Toga's body and is using that as a source of energy. Then I'll have a real good reason to go all absolute carnage on All for Black's ass. All for Black thinks that they know true power, that they are the true power. They don't know anything about true power. Because they don't know anything about me and my friends and family. We are the true power. And All for Black is just digging himself 1 foot at a time in the grave. All the way 6 feet under. Just waiting for the time when All for Black will strike. And it's not really a tense situation, seeing as I know I could handle him if he tries to pull any shady shit. And that if he tried to hurt you, not only would I be after his ass, but you know the others would be after his ass too. I mean, come on. Your brother-in-law, my brother-in-law, technically, adopted brother, well, me being the adopted brother, him being basically who he is, that Shoto, if he heard that All for Black had kidnapped Ursa, there would be no way in hell that All for Black would be getting off scot-free. And, well, if Shinso had heard, or both Shoto and Shinso had heard about something like that, you sure as hell know that there would be no clean getaway for All for Black. Basically, all black. All for black. All black. There would be no clean getaway for his ass if he tried something like that, and they knew about it. And if he tried to pull something like that and try to get past Bakugo, Monoma, and Mineta, well, he'd now have 3 symbiotes on his tail, and another one coming on the way with 2 support symbiotes. And also, what I could possibly imagine, a very angry mother with a basically giant quirk that would probably just make everything a part of All for Black's day all so much worse. And you probably would be able to do that without even having to use your quirk, truth be told. I mean, don't you act like I don't actually already know how fierce you can be without even needing to use that quirk of yours. I mean, I might have been, basically blackout drunk halfway through our honeymoon, but it doesn't exactly mean, like, I don't remember the shit that happened during the little after-party session you and everyone else decided to have. And just how crazy shit got until you just, out of nowhere, just went into a blind rage and started kicking everyone's ass. Like, literally, Shoto and Shinso and Bakugo, and eventually Monoma and Mineta had to all work together with all of their symbiotes just to get you off of me. For whatever reason, you just got angry and started kicking my ass. For no freaking reason. Other than, God, whatever was going through your head at the moment. And then you would just be like, so you still don't remember what you did? Wow, that's just something. And then Izuku's like, well, then what did I do? I mean, for you to be going after me trying to kill me, I mean, during our freaking honeymoon, like the after party, reception party of our honeymoon, I mean, the frick? What the hell did I do? And you would just be like, that's just it. The only person you left to supervise our daughter while we were out on a honeymoon with, everyone else is, I believe, you know who. And then Izuku's like, may I remind you, blackout drunk, so no, I don't know who. And, you would just be like, oh my god, Izuku. You left her with the rated R hero, Midnight. You left our poor, innocent little girl with Midnight. And you didn't expect me to just, not be able to hold it in anymore. And seeing as I had been holding it in for so long, once I did get as angry as I had, not be able to control myself. I mean, it had actually been a while before I had been informed of what you had basically signed Midnight up, to do with our daughter. But whenever I did find out, oh boy, you bet your ass there was going to be repercussions. And Izuku's like, oh, sorry about that, you. I really did not know. Don't remember at all about that. Did I really tell Midnight, of all people, that she could, you know, babysit our daughter? And, you know, you would just be like, Izuku Midoriya, is the sky freaking blue? In other words, don't ask any stupid question like that again, or else I will go madhouse on you again, and you will not survive this encounter. You know, that's such encounter. And Izuku's just like, yeah, I deserve that. Say freaking midnight? I mean, I knew I was drunk even before we actually got to the party. I was already drunk. But, I didn't know I was that drunk to make that big of a mistake. But hey, after what happened with, you and everyone else, and I think myself too, and Carnage, now Midnight knows never to go anywhere near our daughter again, as long as she shall want to keep her life. At least that's definitely what I saw in her eyes whenever you came strutting down. You know, charging like a freaking rhinoceros. And instead, though, I mean, you still would need want our daughter to go to UA. So, I mean, hello, sports festival. Midnight's, I don't exactly think that she's going to be resigned from, helping host that thing. You know, the whole deal with the wheel. And then you would be reminded of that and basically be like, well, I guess it wouldn't be too bad. I mean, she's not being, well, she wouldn't be being babysat by her. She would just have to listen to her stupidity and overall annoyance. But hey, it wouldn't be too long. Sports festival would be only for just one day. And then, be done and over with. So, I guess there can't be that much harm done. Besides, by the time our daughter's actually able to get into UA, she'll be 15. And, be perfectly capable of handling herself, along with the aid of her own symbiote, Scorn. And, well, another thing, Izuku, about the whole thing about should we tell her or should we not tell her, I think just to get a load off our chest before we have to, the whole entire concept about what I'm about to bring up, we should need to tell her. At least to calm things down before the storm, if you know what I mean. You probably don't, but, I think it's for the best. And Izuku not wanting to accept, not wanting to upset his lady love, will, indeed agree to this, and they will finally basically tell Ursa about, well, the reason why she has the kind of power that she does, and why it's still not considered a quirk, even though it works in the way it does. Yes, just because Ursa didn't know about symbiotes didn't mean that the symbiote wasn't exactly helping her around. She just didn't know exactly what was helping her around. However, she had heard from it once before that it was scorn, and that ended up to the question of basically asking who Scorn is, asking her dad that, and then basically her dad and her mother being very confused and perplexed at the idea of even going there. So, even though she hasn't known, she's had Scorn before, but she hasn't actually known that Scorn is what Scorn is, basically. And then Izuku and you would both take turns explaining to Ursa about the wonderful gift that she has, and just how wonderful that gift is, and what wonderful things she'll be able to do with that oh so wonderful gift. And Ursa figuring out that she basically had her own symbiote ever since her freaking birth, was bonded to it ever since her freaking birth, and her symbiote's name was Scorn. Now Scorn would be freely to just do whatever, and not just be like a one-off thing for like whenever Ursa was in danger. They would actually be able to freely conversate with each other. And, Ursa not feel like a third wheel whenever there were really only two wheels around, if you get my, drift. Basically a very awkward sensation. And well, after all of that was done, Izuku would want to know, like, from you, like, what did she mean about the other thing? Like, getting all of this stuff about, their daughter and, well, Scorn off their chests before she would reveal, this other thing. And, they've done that, so what's the other thing? Izuku reminding you about how kinda doesn't like being left in the dark, and that's even more so with Carnage. And you would just be like, Izuku, honey, I'm pregnant. And yeah. This would serve to be a kind of rock your world moment for Izuku. Izuku been saying, like, how long has she been hiding this? How close is the baby being due? And if, like, the situation is anything close to, like, what happened with Ursa and Scorn. Basically, if the child is also going to be born already bonded with their own specific symbiote. Also being a replication, from Carnage. And basically, that one part you would say that basically you'd probably have to ask Carnage that about that part. The whole replication thing, seeing as she's not Carnage, so how should she be able to know about that? I mean, Carnage talks to him more than her. I mean, after all, Carnage is Izuku's symbiote, so that only makes sense. Though Carnage has been trying to get more used to talking with all members of the family to make things not as awkward. Basically trying to use the same methods as Carnage used in order to be able to, comfortably talk with the other members of Team Symbiosis. Other members were easier than other members, and some members were easier to get used to talking to than other members. But hey, I guess, it just comes with the whole being a symbiote thing. Is what Izuku would be thinking. And also be thinking, well, shit, yeah. Is it the same situation? Carnage? And Carnage would be like, well, basically, what he did to, use fertile egg for whenever, Ursa was going to be born. Basically, what Carnage did not notice is that he ended up accidentally doing it to all of the fertile eggs. So basically, any child they have, they're going to be born with their own symbiote that they will be bonded to as soon as they are born, into the world. And Izuku, when you hearing this, well, basically, that's a big blow. And well, they're basically left in the heat of the moment, basically having to decide basically what name to give the kid, and having to figure out if it's going to be a boy or a girl. That's whenever Izuku remembers the future flashback thing on the way back, whenever they were going to the Camino Award. And, well, basically, he says he already knows because of the future flashback thing that this will probably indeed be a boy that she's going to be having. And, well, with as much co-op thinking process that's constantly going through both his and Carnage's heads, back and forth in between the two of each other, Izuku was actually been able to think of a few ideas should the child actually be a boy, like their first child actually be a boy. That is until he remembered, the whole future thing. And that, their child is a girl, but, whatever. And because of all of this, back and forth thinking, Izuku believes he already knows what at least the symbiote could possibly be named. And that it appears to, well, something about it seems to resonate a feeling of carnage and venom at the same time. Almost like that will be the basis of this new symbiote's appearance whenever it, comes into being alongside their son. And whenever, Ursa hears that she's going to get a little brother, well, there are several different ways that kids can react to hearing that they are going to get a little sibling. They can either react happily because they like the idea of getting a little sibling, or be not too happy because it would mean that they're not the baby anymore, and that whole situation. However, Ursa, while she's not all Miss Little Perfect, she is indeed not the perfect child or anything with the way that she can act sometimes. That doesn't exactly mean like she's gonna be all sour about not exactly being the center of attention anymore. And so whenever she does indeed hear about, you know, the fact that she's going to get a baby brother, she actually acts with reacts with a lot of positivity. And, it's basically like, can't wait until, she's actually able to, finally, get to see him, and possibly whenever she gets the first chance to, even hold her little brother. And, that's something that Izuku didn't exactly really think about. And you was just like, wow, really? You weren't really thinking about that? And, well, Izuku's like, well, there's so much going on in our lives right now that that wasn't exactly the first thing in my mind. Or, like, most things in my mind. And the current situation. Who was going to be holding the child first or last. And, well, basically, Izuku explaining that usually the mother, basically, it's always that the mother gets to hold the baby first, and then it would probably be the father, and then the child. But they would have to be close by to their parents, just to make sure that they don't drop the child. Because whenever babies are first born, and even while after they're born, whenever they're in that toddler stage of development, their heads are very sensitive. And bones are very easy to break. So it would be very bad should the child be dropped. And well, Ursa would indeed be able to understand this, and eventually it would happen. The second child to grace the line of Midoriya and Yu, their first child being Ursa, basically Ursa, Takayama, and Midoriya, with their symbiote Scorn, and now their new child, who they've been able to figure out the name of the symbiote, but the child name still perplexing them, because the whole Flash to the Future thing that happened whenever they were at the Camino Ward, like going towards it to fight off All for One, the Future Flash basically ended before like anything could be said about the child, this boy, their name, like if they had thought of anything yet. However, Izuku does come up with a few ideas. I would just both be thinking, and well, Considering as you didn't exactly plan to have any more children after this, well, it's often said that the youngest could indeed be considered the light of the family's lives. And seeing as you has heard that expression before, she actually mentions this to Izuku, and Izuku automatically starts big brain working out and working out, with his mental muscles, and actually does indeed come up with something. Well, the Japanese word for light, seeing as light of their lives, Hikari. They would call the boy Hikari. Hikari Takayama Midoriya. And, well, Ursa liked the name. Her little brother, Hikari Takayama Midoriya. And, well, the actual possible any sort of visual on the actual, what the symbiote or the child Mandy looked like. Well, they're still both in like developmental stages, close to being finished and ready to being born. So things aren't exactly 100% in the clear, but they're pretty close. Izuku can see that there's both good amounts of both red and black, but not in the way of Carnage, in a different way. That, honestly, Izuku finds quite fascinating. And so, when the day comes that a second child is to be born, well, it happens. And, just like Izuku had said to his daughter, basically his and Yu's daughter, the mother gets to basically hold the baby first, and then the father, and then Ursa would be able to hold her little baby brother, well, with supervision by her father, seeing as, well, Yu is pretty exhausted after giving birth to the second and hopefully last child. And Carnage will indeed admit he's actually kind of kapooped after having replicated for the second time. So he couldn't imagine how Shinso must have felt whenever he triple replicated, Venom did, inside of Shinso's body. But he imagined it must have been something similar to this type of feeling. And, believe me, it is not a very pleasant one for Carnage. And seeing as it's not a very pleasant one for Carnage, you bet it's probably not going to be a very pleasant one for Izuku either. Just barely being able to keep himself stable. And, basically also having to hold Carnage's hand through all of this, just so that the lad doesn't pass out inside of Izuku's body. Just from how much of a total biatch that second replication was. Like, both of their, entire beings. And will eventually, with supervision from her father, Ursa would get to hold her little baby brother, little Hikaru Takayama Midoriya. And, well, the doctors wouldn't make the same mistake twice whenever they saw, like, a type of goo that was more of a pronounced red and black than the mostly red with, strands of black that Carnage was. No, this was a lot more accented versions of both colors, red and black, streaming across the body as it was beginning to fill in, almost as if it was trying to suit up. And the end result, well, basically, they decided on the name for both the symbiote and the boy. The symbiote name, Toxin. Yes, that's right. Toxin and Scorn, both being, spawn of Carnage in the comics. So, both these children would have, their symbiotes be the symbiotes that were the spawns of Carnage, seeing as Izuku, who has the Carnage symbiote, is their father. So it's kind of a no-brainer why I would do that. And so, eventually, 5 more years would pass, and the once 10-year-old Ursa Takayama Midoriya would now be the 15-year-old and, preparing her ass off Ursa Takayama Midoriya. Preparing her ass off for what, you may ask? Why, she's 15, so the UA entrance exams. That's what. And seeing as it's been 5 years, her little brother, Hikari Takayama Midoriya, well, he would only be 5. Her little brother of the age of 5, Hikari Takayama Midoriya, and his symbiote, basically, Ursa having pulled a little bit of a fast one behind her parents' backs whenever she had finally turned the age of 15. Not wanting for her little brother to have to wait nearly as long as she had to, for the whole deal with why, even though Hikari is also quirkless, he has the powers that he does. Basically, not wanting Hikari to have to wait nearly as long as she had to for someone to explain this shit to him. However, seeing as he's only 5 and not 10, like she was, whenever she finally got it explained to her, she basically knew she was going to have to use a little bit more layman's terms and explanation for Hikari to be able to digest it all down. And, shortly after, basically pulling this fast one behind her parents' backs, well, Hikari, after basically taking this all in, symbiote would appear. Toxin, introducing himself. to Hikari. Hikari, now knowing that his sister wasn't lying about the name of his symbiote, because it basically just said its name to him. You know, he may be 5, but he's not brain dead. He can kind of connect the pieces of the puzzle together. Even though it's really not a puzzle, whenever this is kind of like a incognito secret thing that Ursa's pulling for her little bro. But now, the thing about this is, I don't know if Scorn is supposed to be stronger than Toxin in the comics, but for this, seeing as, well, Hikari will have known about his symbiote and a lot of other things about symbiotes in general before Ursa was actually able to learn about them, the actual, strength in between the two, offspring of Carnage / offspring of Izuku and you, the strength difference will basically be determined by the way things are went about. Basically, seeing as Ursa was told about it whenever she was 10. However, she's doing her bro a little bit of a secret solid by telling him only being 5 at this point. So, he would indeed be getting a little bit better of a, I guess you could say a lot better of a handle of the knowledge, seeing as he would have been told about it earlier. So, regardless of who's technically stronger in the comics, because of this, the way this is handled, the way this is being handled, because of the way it's being handled, I'm going to say that Toxin would be the stronger out of the two. Plus, I just honestly like Toxin's design more, and in most of the art that I've seen of Scorn has like some sort of like metal gun attached to, like metal gun or something attached to it, and I just find that really off-putting for some reason. I guess I'm just not used to symbiotes having freaking, guns that actually look like guns that aren't like symbioteized. So yeah, that's really off-putting for me. So I guess it's more or less a thing I've already, what, I already like Toxin. So, with the fact of the off-puttingness of that certain detail about Scorn, that just, makes me want to do this. Plus, technically, they're both still the offspring, and they wouldn't technically use this strength, want to hurt each other on purpose, like, maybe training that they would go out and do. But that's like light training, because the time that Ursa's turned 15, her little brother's only 5, so they would have to do lighter training, or at least that's what you would think. But no, the Toxin Symbiote and the Scorn Symbiote would just all of a sudden, in the midst of the, soft sauce training that Ursa and Hikari would have been doing originally, in the midst of all of that, it finally just wouldn't be able to hold it in anymore, and both Scorn and Toxin would just go on freaking heavy metal and, have a duel. However, they would still, want to ensure their parents that they are not literally trying to kill each other, that seeing as they're both symbiotes, and they both are, like, technically, born from the same symbiote, that they can take whatever the other can throw at them, for the most part. This will basically just to see who's the stronger as of, like, currently. And even though Hikari, like, himself, the little guy, is only 5, you and Izuku are both surprised to see that 5-year-old little Hikari's symbiote, Toxin, basically folds Scorn after, like, just a few minutes, maybe, like, hour, half an hour, like, maybe if you really wanted to stretch it, 2 hours, possibly, of them just going at it, finally just letting loose completely, and in doing this, just folding the hell out of Scorn. And in doing this, like, basically having Scorn regress, underneath Ursa's skin, with Ursa, basically Scorn would be working off the clock to basically ensure that Ursa is healed. Because that was unexpected as a freaking F. Basically, unexpected AF. That was totally unexpected. That's literally whenever Hikari would go over to his sister, was just now getting up off her ass from that beatdown, and basically just tell her, like, what did you expect? You literally told me, and, by telling me, you also told my symbiote, basically, everything that we would have needed to know in order to, like, basically, you were told at the age of 10. You told us at the age of 5. So honestly, who did you really think was going to come out on top? Like, just because I'm 5 and you're 15 doesn't mean jack shit concerning the powers of our symbiotes. So, yeah. Basically, that's the equivalent of, like, Ursa being told, and Scorn also being told, basically, by both Hikari and Toxin, that because of what they did, basically Toxin and, in the same way, Hikari are leagues above them, even though the age difference is so, big. Like, literally 10 years of age difference. Or, like, something around that. So, yeah. It would have just been, like, extremely heavy metal, that fight in between the two of them. However, Ursa has a symbiote. Her symbiote can heal her. So, I mean, even if that wasn't the case, Izuku can heal people. So, I mean, that wouldn't be that much of a problem. And, well, basically, Ikari would kind of be looked at as, like, a prodigy of the family, considering the actual, shit he was able to pull off. The little guy was able to do. Like, him and Toxin didn't just kick Scorn and sequentially his sister's ass. They basically, like, super folded their sister / her symbiote Scorn as well. They basically super folded them. So, like, with the prowess of an honest to God prodigy. So, like, a prodigy level, like, symbiote, like, synchronization at the age of freaking 5, yeah. I'd call my son a prodigy too if they had that level of power. Like a mad lad prodigy. However, Ursa, still harboring no ill will to her brother, and actually being happy for him, you know, also, seeing as Hikari said that he was happy for her, that she was going to go to UA because he knew that she could do it, that she'd be able to ace the entrance exam, that he believed in her. So, no ill will, you know, concerning the fact that Hikari was just called a prodigy of the family. Ursa, seeing as how nice Hikari is, she really doesn't feel any need to have, harboring any ill will. In fact, they're actually very close, the two, siblings and their symbiotes. And it's just overall, the parents as well, Izuku and Yu, the symbiote hero Carnage, and the giant hero Mount Lady, and their children, and their children's symbiotes, and, Izuku's symbiote. All a big old happy family, and, all the others as well. I'll be pretty happy, to be honest. And if you guys are wondering why the hell Null hasn't done anything, if All Black is gonna be afraid enough to leave you alone, and he's supposed to be the strongest, even though Null is the creator, All Black is still supposed to be the strongest. Yeah, do you really think Null's gonna do anything if All Black's too afraid to do anything? Yeah, I don't think Null's gonna be that stupid. Plus, Null actually kind of questions, All Black's kind of thing, you're doing all this stuff. I can literally tell, man, you're doing this stuff not because of any Grandmaster plan, but because you're basically using this as a catalyst to not die whenever you eventually head up into this Izuku Midoriya guy's grill, basically as the biggest catalyst you can possibly make to keep yourself alive. So, it's quite honest, to me, obvious to me that you aren't just scared of the man, you are petrified in fear of the man. So much so that you've been making constant, catalyst over catalyst, plans, master plans to ensure your safety whenever you eventually head up into his business. Here's an idea, freaking All Black. Just leave him alone. Leave the man and his family alone. Here's an idea, leave them alone. And maybe you won't have to worry so much. And All Black is just no. No. It must be done. And then Noel's he finally starts getting it. Oh, this is one of those fated rivals things. You're developing a rivalry with the #1 hero of Japan. You're developing a rivalry. I see. Yeah, the two of you wouldn't indeed kill each other. That is, if Izuku had the same feelings about you, considering you a rival. So, if that was indeed so, I myself aren't exactly sure about that, and don't really feel like focusing on researching up on that kind of shit. But if that isn't also indeed so with him, you got yourself a rivalry. you consider yourself a rival to him. How freaking adorable. And All Black would be like, what the did you just say? And Noel's like, you damn sure heard me, boy. How freaking adorable that you actually consider yourself a rival to his power. You and I both know that this man has already taken the title of strongest freaking symbiote eons beyond anything you or me both working together could accomplish. This man is, it's almost like a literal, like, human slash symbiote god on Earth that we're dealing with here. Like a god so much so that it's like a god that could kill other gods just by looking at them. And even we would have to, like, try in order to kill gods. It's like, almost like with the presence this guy has, he could just look at it and, like, blink at a god, and just, they would be no more. Like, just freaking Thanos a god to death, without even trying. And so, the fact that you actually think that you're rival material for him, it is indeed freaking adorable. End of discussion. Nothing else need to be said. And All Black is just like, damn it, I hate it whenever you're right. Why does he have to be so damn strong? Ugh. I swear one of these days, I will find out what makes him so damn strong. I will find out what makes them so damn strong. And I won't rest until I do. And Noel's just like, yeah, good luck on that, buddy. Good luck on that. I mean, if you honestly couldn't see it already, by the first time that we both were already sensing him, if you honestly couldn't tell what makes him so damn strong, then good luck ever trying to figure that out anytime in the near future. If you couldn't figure it out just from the first time of looking at his ass. And basically All Black would just be saying, so what you're telling me is I shouldn't even be trying to figure out what makes him so damn strong if I couldn't tell from the first moment that I realized that he even existed? And Noel's like, well, I didn't know you were a freaking mockingbird, because it's exactly what I just said. And, All Black is just like, well then what the hell am I supposed to do? I mean, I hate being out in the, like, void nothingness of space, just out in the middle of the space boonies, equivalent of the space boonies, if you know what I mean. Which, well, both of us are there, but, try to not take too much offense to this, but you're not exactly the best company, if you know what I mean. And Noel's like, hey, it's better being bad company than no company at all, if you know what I mean. And like, the bad company till the day I die. And Noel Black is just like, oh my god, why did you have to figure out about human music? Good freaking Jesus. Ugh. And I'm not even what those freaking humans call Christian. And I said that. So, yeah. You could probably tell that, well, never mind. I can't help feel like the fact that, it would actually be nice to have a purpose for why I'm here. You know, literally in a void of nothingness, a space that mirror images that planet they call Earth, almost like it's mocking me, that it's challenging me, and I still feel like I don't have any purpose. And Noel's like, so you tried to use someone who you knew could kick your ass as a way to gain purpose. Wow, Black, that is pathetic as frickin' hell. That is, like, ridiculously pathetic. And you were supposed to be the strongest symbiote. Like, Jesus Christ. That is sad. You are a sad, sad, sad soul. And All Black is just like, shut the hell up, Noel. Or am I gonna have to come up over there and make you? And Noel's like, come on, go ahead and try it. And Noel's like Noel's just like, yeah, come on, come over here and try it. I dare you. And, All Black is just like, you know what, screw you, screw this. I'm just gonna, I don't know what I'll do. I guess, maybe, oh, wait, holy shit. I just picked on something massive. And Noel's like, what and like All Black would just be like, finish that sentence, and that thing you were about to mention will no longer exist. And Noel's like, Jesus Christ, man! Like, God! Like, what the frick? They're like, what the hell did you sense then? And All Black is like, I'm sensing, oh, I can feel it. It's not him, but it definitely is still unbelievably powerful. Yes, I'm getting the name. Terrible Tornado Hero, Tatsumaki. And I'm sensing that, yes, power is very so much deserved. The power that they have. Maybe I'll use this terrible tornado hero as a training dummy for whenever I finally encounter Izuku again. We've already challenged each other's literal presence upon the physical world to the fact where I almost felt like I was going to pass out. I mean, what the hell is even what that was? I mean, good God. And no one is like, well, they basically did just both eat Riot and Anti-Venom, so, like, yeah. And plus, Carnage is, they're like, what did you expect to happen? Like, to be led upon the Yellow Brick Road to see the freaking wizard? No, that's drugs, my friend. And definitely what you were feeling, back then was not drugs. I can tell you that. Not unless you were like, popping up some freaking methamphetamine or heroin shit, like cocktail. In that case, I want some. Some of that good old shit. And, All Black is just like, no. My little training dummy. What awaits you is the presence of All Black. And you will serve a very great purpose. You will be my training dummy for me to increase my strength And then whenever I absorb you into my being in perfect harmony, then don't worry, no. Then I will return, and this little rivalry thing can actually possibly get off the ground and gain some traction. But until then, allow me to do a little bit of a what you mortals call breaking of the fourth wall. Because the Dark Shadow Maverick is indeed Alan Zianidis, because he is OUT out of here. Like, favorite, subscribe, click that little bell, and well, he probably will be bouncing like it's Quidditch, and yeeting all the yeet and all the yeet. And something about misdirection, and Noel would just be like, misdirection. And all Black is just basically all Black would just be like, Noel, I cannot believe you are like our creator. You are a little freaking child. Good God. Anyways, hope you are okay with being alone for a while, however long it takes for me to deal with this terrible tornado hero person. And yes, if you haven't guessed already, like, in part 4 of the Tatsumaki What If, I had Tatsumaki face off against Hollow Izuku, so you best to be, expecting a part 5 where this story continues in the form of All Black getting over to Tatsumaki Izuku's, well, basically, universe / reality, and hijinks ensuing like none other. So yeah, All Black has already said it for me, so I don't feel the need to say anything much more. So, yeah, bye.